Welcome to the Liberating Leadership Podcast. Today we have a guest who is a friend, a colleague, somebody I've known for a few years, and I also don't know exactly what she's going to tell us today. It's kind of a secret, But Chantelle, let's start with this. How about you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Ian, it's such a pleasure to be here. Really, really looking forward to the conversation and just to the free flowing. Let's see what comes of this, right? So, the space that I'm playing in at the moment is I help women move from procrastination to permission. But when we talk about procrastination, we very often get stuck on task-based procrastination. And I go a level bigger than that. I go into the meta procrastination. And I believe one of the biggest reasons women are procrastinating, and of course, this applies to leaders in general, is that we are not honoring our desires. And because of that, we're creating shame. So my programs move people from shame to desire and from desire to courageous action. It's not about more motivation. It's not about more tools. It's about that deep inner self-leadership journey that every person, irrespective of title, irrespective of who you are, should be going on.
Talking of who you are, you have your other name here is Phoenix. Tell us a little bit about that. What does Phoenix mean to you?
So I'm going to have to just go back a little bit, right? I'm very fond of symbology and symbols and all of that sort of thing. Now, I'm a twice recovered drug addict. I have been a single mom for 29, going on 30 years. I've walked some hard roads, right? And when I came clean from my addiction in my early 30s, and I really started asking big questions about what is the kind of life that I want to build and lead, and what is the legacy that I want to leave in this world, I was drawn to the symbol of a dragonfly. And a dragonfly speaks to transformation. And I just loved the symbology of the dragonfly. And you can see that happened on my 40th birthday. So you can see I still wear dragonflies. And I really, and obviously I called my business Dragonfly from there because I mastered in facilitating transformation with people. But in 2023, I had a come to Jesus moment because everything crashed around me and life happened as life does. You know, we can't control what's going on around us. But if we choose to look at how we respond, there's huge lessons. So what happened there is I think I burned the house down for the last time. And I have been known for burning the house down because my addiction, I burned the house down. And I'm speaking metaphorically, but I lost everything, you know. And in 2023, I was on the brink of another one of those losing everything sort of scenarios. This opened up the door for a massive sexual awakening. And what I learned in that sexual awakening is our sexuality comes from our life force energy. And that life force energy is the thing that sparks desire, right? Now, you can immediately take this to the bedroom and go, tawdry adult novels, but you can equally take this into the boardroom and say, how many of us are thwarting our desires for promotion, for growth, for whatever it might be, because of shame, because we're putting the lid on the life force energy that says, I want expansion. At this point in time, of course, my Dragonfly became a little bit too soft. So I decided to call myself Phoenix. And also, of course, it was in line with the book that I wrote, Phoenix Rising. So this is my story. I now help people rise from the ashes of absolutely having done the work and it not working. And that's where I am today. You know, I've done the work for 10 years and I still crashed in 2023. Many of us are self-help junkies. And I think we're tired collectively of doing the work and not getting the results. That's where the Phoenix comes in.
Well, I love it so much. I mean, the mythology, me, Morpheus, the one who awakens dreams, brings clarity and that kind of thing. And my own story, I've never been a drug addict, and that I'm not necessarily proud of. It's just In fact, I kind of sometimes wonder if I wasn't too good, but in the process messed up a ton of things and had my moment as well of awakening. And specifically 2011, 2012 were my really, really big transformational years regarding that. But of course, it's an ongoing thing. It's never done. And yet, the result of that was just so powerful in that the purpose started to come through so much stronger.
Ian, you know what? I want to just go back to something you said. Um, you've never been an addict. I would challenge that. You were an addict.
Mm,
You just weren't addicted to illicit substances, right? You were addicted to, may I say, eating
yeah.
and whatever other numbing behavior it was that you were addicted to.
Mm,
So many of us are addicts,
yeah.
but we don't call it addiction because it's not an illicit substance. But we're going down that path of numbing ourselves through eating, through shopping, through destructive relationships, whatever it is. And therein lies the power of transformation.
Exactly. No, I totally agree with you. And I thank you for highlighting that because I have struggled with addiction and it didn't end in 2011, 2012. It, in many ways, I only really started seeing it for what it was and had to go on a whole big journey. Now that's great that we're actually therefore on exactly the same page. And I don't judge because mine, whether it was smoking, whether it was ever, mine was eating and yeah, 186 kilograms at one point. It's yeah, quite severe. However, you have recently been exploring something, discovered something, and I was deliberately not told what this is. So now I want to find out. I'm curious. What is it? What is it? And let's find out what is this new discovery of yours.
Wow. Okay. So you can see I've made toys, right? For the longest of time, we have been concerned with the question, who are you? And if we look at, I think it was Descartes who said, I think, therefore I am. And we've pinned a lot of our philosophy and a lot of our self-awareness on this who are you question. Now, I myself have coached identity for many years, and I've always said if we can unlock who you are, we can start unpacking how you show up in the world, and we can start shifting that identity. But the deeper I go into this thing, I think we're asking the wrong question. And now I'm going to kind of segue back into this self-help junkie story. And I know you can relate, Ian, because like you say, this journey is ongoing, right? Even though we have our awakening and our transformation, life still happens. And we've still got to respond to the stuff that gets thrown our way, right? So are we maybe asking the wrong question about who are you? And I'm going to give you a little bit of an example, right? In leadership, we talk about, there's all these assessments. There's your Enneagrams and your disc profiles and whatever it is. And we've got values-based leadership. And we always tell leaders, if you know who you are on the Enneagram and you know what personality profile you are, you will know how you respond to stress. You will know where to liberate your leadership potential. You understand all of these things. But what happens if you've got all of these things pinned up on the wall? You know exactly who you are, right? You've got your profile, your strengths finder, your values, everything is there. But then life happens. Someone flips you the bird in traffic on the way into work. Your dog dies. You have a robbery. Life happens. And you start going within and thinking, oh, I don't feel like it. And it doesn't matter how much you look at those words on the wall, right? You're just not feeling it. You're like, but I am ambitious and I am a go-getter and I should be feeling it. And you're not feeling it. And because you're not feeling it, guess what's happening? Shame is starting to come in. Why aren't I feeling like who I am? And do I really know who I am? So what I want to do is I want to take this question and I want to change the puzzle a little bit, but I don't want to give you the answer just yet. I'm going to stick on this question for a moment. Tell me what your gut feel is so far, because I've got a little bit more in terms of unpacking that who are you question. But tell me where you're sitting now.
There are two things that come up for me, and this is so much fun, by the way. I'm really enjoying this. So, the first thing is about the typical way we try and discover the who. I mean, I'm a big fan of StrengthsFinder, just as one example that you mentioned, and actually Disc as well. I've used Disc, and it's liberated people in so many ways. Both of those have, but none of them really completely get to essence. And essence is a big question for me. Who am I really on the inside? And what about my saboteurs and that kind of thing, and where do they come from and what is the role that they're playing? And how do I get away from being ruled by my 6-year-old finger wagging compliance officer or whichever other one it might be, my 4-year-old anarchist, eat everything you can see saboteur or whatever. So there's a whole lot more. The tools cannot fully describe the unbelievable uniqueness of every human being and that true essence of who we actually are. And so I love the tools, but the tools are only signals. They're not the fact. They're not the story. So that's my one response. I've got another response, but I don't know if you wanted to come in on that.
I think I'm just going to make a quick observation about what you're saying, right? By defining ourselves so fully and having a complete charter and subscribing to the self-awareness doctrine, are we not putting ourselves in a cage? Because identity fluctuates all the time, and it's based a lot on what saboteur is showing up, what subconscious part of you has mastery at that point in time. If I look at the places we live in, we live in the past, the present, and the future, right? So if we take this is what was. We spend so much time focusing on what was, and this causes regret, depression, because we want to go change the past. Or we spend so much time focusing on the outcome, which is the future. Is it going to work? And there's all this uncertainty. And then you layer this with all the who are you questions. And it just causes us to feel off kilter. So that's kind of where I'm going to park it. Give me your second observation or whatever.
So my second observation is this, is that who is only one of the questions. Because another one that you've just highlighted is when. When am I? Not just who am I, but when am I? And when am I, it's that thing of you can't step into the same river twice. Who I am today is not who I am going to be tomorrow. And if you look at just the brain, and I mean, there's a lot more to us than just the brain, which I'm going to come back to. But when you look at just the brain, there are these 85 billion neurons, and each one supports thousands of synaptic connections and all. And the complexity of that basically means every single one of us is completely unique. There is nobody who has ever lived statistically that is like you. There will be nobody who ever lives who's going to be like you. So you are completely unique. And I really do believe in that. But simultaneously, all those synaptic connections and neurons are not static. And so they're busy changing. And who you're going to be in 5 years' time is different from who you are today. And who you were 5 or 10 or 15 or 30 years ago is different from you are and who you're going to be. And so there is this fluidity, I think, that's part of it. And I completely agree that rigidity is part of the problem. And I think we do want to have a fluidity. We know, through neuroplasticity, we're going to be changing. It's going to be developing. So the when are we is for me also a critical question. My best friend, Dr. Jan Mens, he says for him, more important than who are we is what are we? And this is a very interesting question because some of us have this tendency to think that we're just a soul in a body or we are just a brain on a transport mechanism. But when you look at the what are we are emotion, we are physicality, we embody things, we have gut feelings and intuitions and instincts, which are not the same as intuitions. I'm actually writing a book on that, but there's a whole thing on coming to our senses. What exactly are all those things? And if we're ignoring that, and I see a lot of leaders are doing this, they're either treating their body as, for me to be a good leader, I must go to gym every single day, and it's this optimization, optimization, optimization. Therefore, I'm going to suppress and ignore all my emotions, which are stored in my body. And so I think I'm doing this body thing, but I'm actually not doing the body thing at all. And and so, there's a complexity of what we are that to me is essential in our journey and the leveraging of everything we have. I'll never forget my ex-wife. The first time I ever said, I'm beginning to think I could be quite an intuitive person. And she was like, what do you mean? You're like the most intuitive person I've ever met, and your intuition's never been wrong. Now, that's not always true, but you know, it's like, oh, you saw this all along and I didn't. What am I? It's more complex than just a brain on a stick or a brain profile or a personality profile.
Absolutely. And you know what? I just want to spend a little bit of time there because I think that is the perfect bridge into how we're going to start restructuring this question, right? If we look at how our society or our civilization has evolved, and we go back to industrial revolution and I don't quite know the sequence, but industrial revolution, information age, digital age, social media age, and guess what? We are now sitting smack bang in the AI revolution, right? And if we look at all those evolutions or revolutions that we've had, the industrial age, we were very much about holistically showing up. People had to shovel coal, so there was a lot of mind, body, soul connection. And as we've moved or as we've evolved, everything has become from the neck up. Particularly now, we're living smack bang in this information digital age of AI, where what we need our body to do is we've almost got pets, right? So as long as I feed it, clothe it, make sure it shows up looking fairly socially acceptable and doesn't embarrass itself in the course of its day, it's okay. And this is what we have turned our body into. We've forgotten that our body is an operating system. And I love what you say about intuition. If we can treat our body as the operating system, emotion rises in our body as sensation long before we attach a label of emotion. So my heart will start beating faster, my palms will get sweaty, and then I'll go, oh, that's fear. Or I could go, oh, that's excitement.
Mm.
So you see, we get the sensations, then we label the sensation, and then we act according to the label. What happens if we went back before the label, just to the sensation, and said, oh, heart racing, palms sweaty. What is this telling me? What is my operating system trying to communicate? But you
Yes.
see, we jump to labeling, and the minute we've labeled, we've judged it. And the minute we've judged it, then we've decided, I'm not good enough. And then that shame loop starts.
Yeah.
So the what are you question is incredibly powerful for me.
Love it. And that aligns so much with this much more holistic part of leadership. I love the John C. Maxwell quote of everything rises and falls on leadership. For me personally, leadership rises and falls on self-leadership. And this is an example of it. This example of going, hang on, this is a signal. What is my body? What's going on here? Being curious rather than judgmental about this entire operating system. I love that.
Absolutely. But now I'm going to call out the elephant in the room, Ian, because we have got so many,
I've lost a
forgive
lot
me,
of
I'm going
weight.
to
I'm
be
not the elephant anymore.
I love it. Where is a proverbial elephant? There is a proverbial elephant, right? We'll call out that elephant in the room. Our society has also moved to an awareness of mindfulness, an awareness of this self-leadership journey. And there are many people who pay lip service to the self-leadership journey. And I think that's the elephant. They pay lip service to the self-awareness journey. And they say, well, I've done the assessments. I know exactly who I am. I know my top values. We are good. Let's go. But then I'm going to come back to where I started this conversation. Then they sit at their desk and life has happened and the rug has been pulled out from under them, or whatever it is that life throws at us, right? And they're going, I just can't. I just can't. Is there a better question we could ask at that point?
So tell us. For me, the classic questions are who am I, why am I, what am I, and when am I, where am I? Space and time, all of these ones. I think a lot of people get derailed by starting with the how question. How should I? How must I? And it's like a behavioral thing as opposed to an essence thing.
Oh, well, now you've just opened that can of worms. Because my reframe, what happens if we take who are you and we turn it into, oh, I'm going to drop the balls. No, they're not even balls. There you go. What happens if we turn it to how are you? Now, I love what you say. When we focus on who we are, we focus too much on the behavior. But let's internalize this with the preceding conversation of what am I? If your body is the operating system and you're sitting in front of your PC in the morning and life has happened and you're not feeling it, can you just stop and ask, how am I? And that's not a question of how am I showing up? How am I moving into this? It's not a behavioral question. It is a, let's check in with this operating system. How am I? And what I love about this, Ian, is remember I spoke about the tenses, right? We spend our lives focusing on what was, all the stuff that happened in the past, or focusing on the outcome, all the stuff that needs to happen in the future and all the uncertainty that lies there. But when we ask the how question, what happens is we come right back here into the present. This is here. There is one moment that you have full control over right now. That's it. And of course, there's more with this H, this beautiful H. I'm going to
Before you
start
go
with
there,
presence.
yeah, before
Mm.
you go there, I love what you're saying here. And this how, for me, when my saboteurs are going crazy, they're probably reacting to something in the operating system that's been there most of my life, that was there, implemented for survival purposes and all that kind of stuff. But when we bring it to how am I now, we're going, okay, so the saboteur has been triggered. What triggered it? And not the situation, not the, oh, this person pulled in front of me. No, there's something at a deeper level. What triggered that? And that curiosity, the non-judgmental curiosity, allows me to go, so how am I? Oh, I've got a headache. I didn't even realize I had a headache. And okay, let me feel the headache a bit. And it suddenly starts depleting. And I'm going, what? I didn't take an aspirin. But somehow, by me going, oh, that's what's happening, let me be with that, something shifts.
That's exactly it. And that brings me to the next H word. So it's just your anchor for how is here. But the next H word is honest. We're not honest with ourselves, right? Like you say, with this headache, the immediate reaction is, oh, I've got a headache, I need to take an aspirin. Or I'm feeling anxious, I need to take, and I don't even know what antidepressants are called, what Ambiens or why. You can see I don't like that stuff, right? But I'm feeling depressed, so let's take a pill. I'm not feeling optimal, let's take a pill. Let's get honest with ourselves, right? Like you say, sit with that sensation in your body without labeling it. You see, this is the difference between experiencing a sensation as an aesthetic or experiencing it as a story. And so often we jump straight to story. I've got a headache. It means I'm stressed. I need to take a pill. If we experience it as the aesthetic, I've got a headache. Clearly there's a pressure buildup. What is my body trying to tell me? What do I need to pay attention to? And at that point, you might get an intuitive glimpse of, oh, I've got that meeting tomorrow. And something might say to you, cancel that meeting, or is that the right partnership? What would happen if you didn't take that pause?
Well, that feels and sounds like conscious leadership for me.
Yeah.
Conscious self leadership, because there is no conscious leadership without conscious self leadership. And that's exactly it. Let me pause, let me be honest, and then we can make better quality decisions, be more in tune with our intuition or whatever it might be. And you know, sometimes it's the other way around. It's not like that person that we're going to meet with is the wrong person. It's
Sure.
I'm bringing the baggage of something else to this meeting that I needed to first go,
Yes.
oh, that was about that. Let me deal with that. Oh, now suddenly I realize this is the right person to meet with, and I'm not going to bring that negativity in. So it works both ways when we are conscious self leaders.
It does. And that's where we start bringing that human in.
Mhm.
You know, we're coming back to human heart-centric leadership, right? I've just gone blank. I wanted to say something else now.
And I maybe
The
talk about the
recording
human
keeps
bit while
working.
you're recovering that. And to
Sure.
me, you know, one of the things I've seen in my own life is that I've typically either gone the route of being very people centric in my leadership or very power centric in my leadership. And for me, the ultimate is this human thing means, yes, we are powerful people. You're a powerful woman, you know, and I honor that power. And at the same time, you're human. And aren't people in the age of AI looking for leaders who are bringing their authentic power, the power to do good, and their humanity, the awareness of their own humanity, and the awareness that the people they lead are human too.
I love it. And that reminds me of what I was going to say. Let's honor the human in each other. And I'm just going to talk out of turn here a little bit and share what we did when we got onto this podcast recording before we started the recording. You know, we sat and we did some deep breathing together, closed our eyes. And it's not a woo-woo thing. You know, before people run off and go, oh my word, they're a cult, like really, they're doing deep breathing together. What we were doing is we were coming into presence. We were honoring one another. We were greeting the human in one another. We were also clearing out the noise of our mornings so that we could be fully present in the here and now, in this moment. From there, we checked in with one another. How are you this morning? We asked the real question.
Yeah.
You know, what would change in our meetings and in our businesses if we could start taking a more present, human, heart-centered approach to honor the other? Stop living in the past, stop living in the future, focus on the only place you can control and come right into it.
Exactly. Exactly. This thing of taking some deep breaths, and it's so not woo-woo. It is so good leadership. So I've been doing some work with a big global client and their leaders. Now, a lot of these people come from an academic background. They've written books, they've got doctorates. They're very, very in tune mentally and so on. And one of the modules is around conflict and this idea of can we in our teams balance curiosity and candor. That's one of the modules. And there's a piece of that module where I just stop the whole class. And this is virtual, you know, stop the whole class, like 30, 40 people in the room. And I go, can we just together take 3 deep breaths? And they kind of look at me. I said, don't worry, it's not a woo woo thing. If you want to close your eyes, if you want to turn your camera off, it's okay. It's just, we're going to take 3 deep breaths. That's all we're going to do. And of course, that takes under 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And I say to them, put in the chat what changed for you. And 90% say, I feel more calm.
Exactly.
They didn't even know they weren't feeling calm. They thought they were relaxed. 3 deep breaths, and they suddenly go, I feel more present. I feel more calm. Now that's leadership. 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds.
That's it. And the problem is, we are so focused. I'm going to come back to it again. What happened yesterday that I need to fix, or that's causing shame, or that I'm second guessing, or what needs to happen tomorrow that is not yet certain, that I'm panicking about, that I'm going into worry about? Just come back into that present. And when we come into that present, what I've noticed is we start unlocking desire. I mean, I shared with you my message is desire and shame. I look at the flip sides of the coin. But that's when we clear the clutter, clear the uncertainty, and we can start asking ourselves, what do I really want?
So I work with a lot of leaders, and a lot of leaders are telling me they're very time poor. We're seeing a lot of these kinds of things coming through. They feel isolated. They don't feel supported, and various things. And in some ways, maybe coming back to this thing of self-help, is they feel like, oh, too many assessments, too much development, too much. I must do this. I must behave this way, and I must do all these things. And what happens for me with this thing of taking some deep breaths, bringing the honesty and the humanity and all of that, is suddenly my perspective is shifting from do this frenetic energy, or, oh, I've got an open door policy. I must just be available to all my people all of the time. And then making bad decisions because the person walks into the office, they've got this problem, you know how to fix it, and you know you can fix it quicker than you can train them to do it. So you do it for them and you take on their monkey. And later on, you're sitting and they're doing nothing and you're doing all the work. I mean, that's not wise. But take the 3 deep breaths and go, okay, now be present to this. And as a leader, my responses are, oh, if I fix this for them, I'm setting this pattern up where it's going to have this outcome I don't want. There's the O. Because now I'm seeing the wisdom of being present to this, and I can construct a better outcome just by being present.
That is the cage of the who. That's the trap of the who, because I've set this precedent. I've got to help them. I've got to step in. This is who I am. This is who people know me to be, right? So instead of going into this trap all the time of the who, let's focus on the how. How am I? How is my team? And then we can start asking the unlock behavior questions. How do I want to show up? How do I want them to know me? How do I want to be perceived? You see, identity asks, am I ready to define myself? So when we're asking the who question, we're effectively providing this box of, this is my definition. It's all quite neat and it fits together. But how unlocks momentum? Because how can go anywhere? Kind of goes all over the place, right? And I just want to touch on something that you said a moment ago, Ian. This time poor, this self-sabotage, this culture that we're in where it's just hustle, 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 run, 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 and there's just no time. So what has happened is we are, I think Stephen Bartlett calls it the optimization era, right? Or whatever. We've got watches, we've got rings, we've got measurements, because what you can't measure, you can't manage, right? We all know this. But so we manage our bodies the same way we're managing our team's KPIs. And everything has become about data, 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 data. But your body was created absolutely perfectly. It has all the wisdom inside it that if you would only take the time to listen. But it's a journey. I mean, you know yourself, Ian. You embark on this journey and you don't get that wisdom from your body on the first pass. You might have to do the work for 30 days, and then suddenly your body's going to say, hey, careful of that, or let's lean into this, or how about this idea?
Well, my example of that in my addiction journey with food is so programmed to eating in specific times, specific things. There's a complete detuning from what does my body actually want or need. And then of course later in life you go, oh, I'm overweight. So now I must go on to way less or Weight Watchers or this diet or that diet, which is now telling you again what you must eat and how much you must eat. Then you go and see a nutritionist and they will tell you calories this and count this and do this and all of this thing. And the net result of all of that was further weight gain for me. Always.
Yes,
Every time.
yes.
Every single time. And a construction of my ability to hear what my body actually wants.
Yes.
And when I started talking to this about this with people 15 years ago, I had people say, oh no, but if I just listen to my body, all I'm going to do is follow my cravings. And I'm just going to be this sugar craving person or eat chocolate all day long or whatever it might be. And I'm going, no, 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 no. The body's got a message. The craving is not the message. There's a deeper thing that we need to tune into and what I want, as opposed to what is my body actually asking for?
Again,
You
you've
know,
opened up a whole big rabbit hole that we can go down, right? I've also always battled with my weight. I think when I was at my heaviest, I was about 105 kilograms. So I've always battled with the weight. The only thing that ever worked for me was drugs. If I am putting stuff up my nose, then I'm nice and skinny. It's fabulous. Of course, we don't want to do that anymore, right? But there's also this culture with this optimization culture is we have outsourced decisions for our lives. We have outsourced advice to the nth degree. And I mean, interestingly enough, I actually presented this in a talk about a year ago. The top Googled question about a year or two ago was, wait for it, what should I watch on Netflix? Right, right. How can we outsource these decisions? Now, I come back to my weight loss journey. I went to dietitians, I went to nutritionists, I had blood tests, I went to doctors. I thought maybe it's just menopause, maybe my body's changing. But you know what? Nothing, none of the professional, paid for, good, solid medical advice that I received, none of it worked. You know what worked? This journey.
yeah,
When I went through the awakening, I started shifting my patterns. I started liberating my essence. And guess what? The weight just fell off. Not because I was consciously going, what does my body want? But because I was showing up differently and I was craving different things. I craved movement. I suddenly started wanting to move my body every day. It was no longer a chore. I no longer viewed it as exercise. You see, it was this deep shift within me.
What if you can shift your world in just 15 minutes? Will you do it? Well, now you can. With the Global State of Leadership Survey, powered by the EG3 Leadership Assessment from Totally Morpheus. As an individual, you get your secure assessment, instant report, and a personalized micro-learning pathway to grow as a leader. No cost, no risk, just pure liberating leadership. As a team or organization, you get all of that for your people. State-of-the-art leadership resources, performance, succession that builds a sustainable future. And as a society, well, we all get the global results and access to the comprehensive Global State of Leadership Report. That means better leadership and a better world for all of us. The Global State of Leadership Survey, powered by the EG3 from Totally Morpheus. Take it. Share it. Benefit.
Chantelle, doesn't that apply? I mean, that's just a micro lesson of this bigger thing we're talking about of leadership and self-leadership and this being human and rediscovering our humanity, being honest about it. Um, this is your message now, and this is an exciting message. Who are your clients? Who are you taking this message to? Where are you finding the biggest resonance?
Hmm. Yeah, and I love working with women. And the reason I love working with women is because all of my message came out of my sexual awakening. My whole message on desire and shame is built on life force energy, which goes into sexuality. And I find that when I'm coaching and working with one on one with clients on that deep level, there's a lot of vulnerability, and that's why I like working with women. If I start crossing over on that deep layer, it gets a little bit blurry. But if we keep it sort of, we start skimming the surface, and this is really my big market at the moment. I like doing Women's Day talks. I like working with companies, big companies. I work in sort of financial services. For some reason, they like me. I don't know why. But I love doing these big women's wellness days where I can start teasing out that procrastination, that permission, the desire, the shame, the struggles that we work with. And then we can go deeper on one level. I don't know if I've quite answered your question, but that's sort of where I'm playing at the moment.
It's a perfect answer. I love it. And I can see that. And I can see the success there. You finding that this is working in the corporate side and the rest as well. You say you don't understand exactly why the financial services industry is one of the places that you've had success. Can you talk more about how they welcome you and your message?
I think people are looking for real, Ian. If we just take a scroll through social media, and I actually want to puke when I go onto social media because you can smell AI a mile away. I get excited these days when I see a spelling mistake. I get excited when I see an unedited video on social media because I'm like, oh wow, that's authentic. And I think that's what my corporate clients like about me. In a world full of veneers and masks and expectations, I am left of center. I am provocative. I am going to say the stuff that everyone's thinking and call out the elephant in the room, right? That's what I'm going to do. And I think people are craving that.
I agree.
That's so necessary.
Yeah. And I'm seeing very similar things with my work, is that people are looking for, I mean, we've got this horrible overused word of authenticity. The reality is that we don't like the word, but people are craving real. And I think that's exactly it. And it's that humanness, that humanity without, and it doesn't diminish the power of our essence. In fact, I think it liberates it to be real. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to give ourselves permission to be real. Because so many of us are still stuck in the, what do I have showing? Whoops, we're still stuck in the bird cage of that neat little box that says thou shalt not and thou shalt. So give yourself permission to be real. And start with asking the question, how am I feeling? And then show up there.
Exactly. Chantelle, this has been fabulous. This conversation has been real and raw, and I love that. We don't have any R's in your acronym there. But it's real and raw and rocking. I love it. Let's go with that. So, Chantelle, if people want to get hold of you, if they want to find out more, what is the best way to get hold of you?
LinkedIn is my favorite playground. You can always find me on LinkedIn.
Mm.
And then just in terms of the sort of areas of transformation that I play in, I work with corporates, women's wellness days, events, all of that sort of thing. I also host high-end retreats. I did my first one in Mauritius last year. I have a women's membership, which is the Deep Soul Journey. And then I work one-on-one with clients.
So all the way from keynotes to one-on-one individual work. And I guess that means that you're tailoring it to the need that you see or the scenario. So tell me about your retreat. I think I just want to hear a little bit more about that before we go, because that just sounded incredible. I mean, obviously the glamour of Mauritius, that's an attraction, but it seems to me like there was some deep things going on there.
Yes, it was definitely, I called it after my book, I called it Phoenix Rising Mauritius, right? 10 points for creativity. But what I loved about it, Ian, is I was able to take these women. I had 10 women from all corners of the world, and I was able to take these women on this journey. And we started the retreat by just facing one another in the room and just looking into each other's eyes. And of course, the tears started immediately because no one's ever stopped and just looked at you. You know, we were doing that, the tantric soul gazing practice without any of the sexuality, but it was just that greeting. And then as we went deeper and deeper over the few days, by day 3 was the big transformation. You know, that was the shift. That was that deep subconscious shift. And the release that I saw. But for me, the epiphany or the crowning moment was yesterday. I saw a woman who attended the retreat, and she has given herself permission to start painting. She's always been a graphic artist, and she started painting out of this retreat. And she painted a picture of one of the places we went to, this beautiful rock pool, and she was floating in this rock pool. And she's called this painting the baptism. And that was her return to self. She has liberated her demons in a way that is, it's just so powerful to watch this transformation. And it all started because she gave herself permission to say the words that were trapped in her soul that she refused to say. She said them. So yeah, the retreats are deep and poignant and powerful and very emotional, but beautiful.
Wow. Chantelle, as a close, I have a question, and the question is this. What is the question that you wanted me to ask that I haven't asked, or maybe even what is the answer you wanted to give that you haven't had an opportunity to give yet?
Holy hell, Ian. I'm just going to go with what my soul is speaking, and I think it's more. It's not so much a question, but it's more an implementation for anyone who's listening. And I'm addressing this self-help junkie, the person who's done the work and is still frustrated. There is truth. There is truth, but you've got to start being honest with yourself. Stop outsourcing your decisions. Stop investing into false routines and just start connecting with yourself in the small pockets. And as much as I've got a big morning routine or a daily routine that I do, there's journaling and meditation and all of those things. For me, that's important. But you know what's more important? The minute by minute, hour by hour check-ins. I mean, my alarm went off halfway through this recording, and I'm hoping we've edited that nicely. But that's one of my check-ins. I've got an alarm on my phone several times during the day, and that it's just that 30-second pause. How am I? How am I doing? What am I feeling? And everyone has time for that.
That really liberates us to bring our essence to the world and to change, to be a blessing, to be a revolutionary.
Yes. Yes. And to leave a legacy. That's what we want to do.
Thank you, Chantelle.
Thank you, Ian. This was Heart Connections.